All right, so today we're diving into something pretty fascinating. Um, India's startup scene.
Yeah,
It's been making headlines and there are whispers everywhere, but we're going deeper than that.
for
We're
sure.
going to be going deep
Yeah.
thanks to this episode of Startup News titled India Pledges Fresh Billion for Startup.
Oh, wow.
And let me tell you, it's getting pretty interesting.
It is. And it's really captivating because India's not just playing catch up here. They're going all in to become a global leader in innovation.
Yeah.
They're doing it their own way.
Yeah, and $1 billion for startups, that's not chump change.
No.
What really stood out to me was that this new $1.15 billion fund,
Right.
it builds on what they've already been doing.
Yeah.
It's not their first rodeo. They've been laying the groundwork for a while.
Absolutely. And we're talking about a multi-year strategy here, serious investment.
Right.
They're clearly committed to transforming India into a major player in the global tech scene.
And so for our listener, this means India is a hotbed of opportunity right now.
Yeah. A huge market, a young population that's hungry to build the future.
Right.
And now this massive influx of capital.
Right.
It's like a recipe for a startup boom.
It is. And here's where India's approach gets interesting.
Okay.
They're not just trying to replicate Silicon Valley.
Right.
They're taking a really proactive approach to make India incredibly attractive to startups.
Okay.
They're actually trying to streamline the system.
Well, they're tackling bureaucracy in
I mean,
India,
wait.
right?
Color me skeptical.
But they've set up something called the High-Level Committee for Regulatory Reforms.
Okay.
Think of it as a bureaucratic SWAT team,
Okay.
cutting through red tape, simplifying licensing,
Right.
making it easier to do business.
So less time stuck in paperwork, more time building cool stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. I can see why that would attract entrepreneurs, but what are they actually investing in?
Right.
What kind of startups are they betting on?
Well, there's a big focus on what they call deep tech, which sounds a little intimidating, but it's actually pretty exciting.
Yeah, deep tech, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Right.
Break it down for us.
Okay.
What exactly are we talking about here?
Think of it as the really cutting-edge stuff.
Okay.
We're talking artificial intelligence, biotechnology, advanced materials,
Right.
technologies that have the potential to solve big problems.
Okay, so not just your average app or website.
Right.
This is about pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Yeah.
So give us a picture.
Okay.
What kind of deep tech startups could we see coming out of India?
Imagine Indian companies pioneering breakthroughs in renewable energy,
Oh, wow.
personalized medicine, maybe even space exploration.
Wow.
The possibilities are vast and the potential impact is global.
That's pretty wild. And they're already seeing some serious success stories, right?
Yeah.
I mean, India has its fair share of unicorn startups. Those companies valued at over $1 billion.
Absolutely. Over 100 unicorn startup and counting. Think companies like Zomato, Policy Bazaar.
Yeah.
Names you might even recognize. And they're attracting big-time investors like SoftBank and Sequoia.
So this isn't just a pipe dream.
Right.
There's a proven track record of success.
Yeah.
Which means this new wave of investment could supercharge the whole ecosystem.
It's like they've built this solid foundation and now they're ready to scale up in a big way.
Yeah, and it's not just about creating tech giants either.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Great.
Is this just about creating the next Google or Facebook?
No, they're very deliberately focusing on first-time entrepreneurs, especially women, and those from underrepresented communities.
Oh.
They're trying to build a more diverse and inclusive startup culture.
So it's about empowering a whole new generation of innovators.
Yeah.
Which is pretty inspiring.
Yeah.
But then there's this other piece of the puzzle that seems a little out of left field.
Yeah.
Nuclear energy.
Right?
The budget also includes a whopping $2.3 billion dedicated to nuclear energy, which might seem strange at first,
Yeah,
but it actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
it does.
Okay, help me connect the dots here.
All right.
How does nuclear energy fit into India's startup boom?
Well, think about the potential for innovation in areas like reactor design, waste management, clean energy solutions. These are all areas where startups could play a key role.
So they're not just investing in nuclear energy.
No.
They're creating a whole new market for clean tech startups.
Right.
It's like a double whammy. You know what's really interesting to me?
What's that?
The source material we have is all about India's startup scene.
Right?
But this nuclear investment hints at something bigger. Their long-term vision for sustainable growth.
Absolutely. They're thinking about the big picture.
Yeah.
about how to power their economy in a way that's both sustainable and responsible.
And they're betting that startups will be a key part of that solution.
Yeah.
It's like a ripple effect,
Yeah.
with each investment creating new opportunities and possibilities.
Absolutely. And it's not just about economics. It's
Okay.
about tackling global challenges,
Okay.
climate change, energy security, healthcare access. These are issues that India is stepping up to address, and they're doing it through innovation.
Okay, so we've got billions of dollars pouring into startups, a focus on deep tech,
Yeah.
a commitment to inclusivity,
Yeah.
and a long-term vision for sustainable growth.
It's pretty remarkable.
Where do we even go from here?
Well, we've only scratched the surface now. We need to dig deeper into the human element of this startup surge, how it's impacting everyday people, and what it all means for the future of India and the world.
That's what gets really fascinating. But first, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned so far.
Yeah.
What's standing out to you? What are the big takeaways for our listeners?
For me, it's the sheer ambition and scale of what India is trying to achieve. They're not just following trends.
Yeah.
They're setting them, and they're doing it with a focus on inclusivity and sustainability.
And that's a story worth paying attention to.
Absolutely. This is about more than just business. This is about a nation finding its place on the global stage and potentially reshaping the future of technology as we know it.
And we'll be right back to explore that very idea after a quick break. Don't go anywhere.
Sounds good. You know, when we talk about India's startup surge, it's easy to get caught up in the numbers.
Right.
Billions of dollars, the unicorn valuations.
Yeah.
But what really fuels this engine is the human element.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me about the people behind this boom. What makes them tick?
Well, India has this incredible advantage,
Okay.
a young and rapidly growing population
Right.
that's hungry for opportunity and super tech savvy.
Yeah.
It's like a built-in talent pool for innovation.
So it's not just about the money. It's about the people who are actually building these companies.
Yeah.
Writing the code, coming up with the ideas.
Exactly. And the government is actively investing in education and training programs to nurture this talent.
Okay.
We're talking coding boot camps, STEM education initiatives, even partnerships with global tech giants to provide cutting-edge skills training.
So it's like they're creating a whole generation of tech wizards.
Yeah.
But what about the people who aren't necessarily coding whizzes?
Right.
Is there a place for them in this new economy?
Yeah, absolutely. This startup surge is creating a ripple effect throughout the entire economy.
Okay.
Think about it. All these startups need lawyers, marketers, accountants, designers, you name it.
Right.
The demand for all kinds of skills is exploding.
So it's not just about creating tech jobs, it's about creating opportunities across the board.
Exactly. And it's happening in all sorts of sectors, healthcare, finance, even agriculture.
Wow.
We're seeing a wave of innovation that's transforming traditional industries.
Now this is where I get really excited. Give me an example of how tech is shaking things up in a surprising way.
Imagine AI-powered platforms connecting farmers directly with consumers,
Sure.
cutting out middlemen and ensuring fair prices.
Okay.
Or telemedicine apps bringing quality healthcare to remote villages that previously had limited access.
So it's like technology is leveling the playing field.
Yeah.
Creating opportunities where they didn't exist before.
Exactly. And all of this is happening against the backdrop of India's incredible cultural diversity and entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
You've got this melting pot of ideas and perspectives,
Right.
which is always a recipe for innovation.
But there's also a sense of urgency.
Yeah. Right?
It's like India is playing catch-up in a way, trying to make up for lost time.
Right.
Do you think they feel that pressure?
I think there's definitely a sense of ambition, a drive to prove themselves on the global stage.
Right.
They're not just content with being a regional player anymore.
Yeah.
They want to be a global leader.
And they're not shying away from competition.
Yeah.
They're going head-to-head with Silicon Valley,
Yeah.
challenging the established order.
Which is incredibly exciting to watch. It's a reminder that innovation can come from anywhere,
Yeah.
and that the next big breakthrough could very well come from a small startup in Bangalore or Mumbai.
And that's what makes this story so compelling.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about economics or technology. It's about human potential being unleashed on a massive scale.
It's a story of ambition, determination, and a belief that technology can be a force for good.
But you know, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are challenges too.
Of course.
What are some of the hurdles India needs to overcome to truly realize its potential?
Well, for one, there's still a significant digital divide.
Right.
Access to reliable internet and digital literacy are crucial for fostering a thriving tech ecosystem.
Right.
And those are still issues in many parts of the country.
So it's not just about pumping money into startups.
No.
It's about creating an environment where everyone has the opportunity to participate.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of infrastructure.
Oh.
Building a world-class tech ecosystem requires robust infrastructure, things like reliable power grids, efficient transportation networks, modern research facilities.
Like building a house.
Yeah.
You need a solid foundation before you can start adding the fancy features.
Exactly. And then there's the question of regulatory clarity.
Okay.
While they're making strides in streamlining regulations, there's still some uncertainty in certain areas,
Right.
which can be a deterrent for investors and entrepreneurs.
So it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
Promoting innovation while also ensuring responsible and ethical practices.
And let's not forget the global context.
Right.
Geopolitics, trade tensions, global economic slowdowns, these can all have an impact on India's growth.
So it's not just about what's happening within India's borders.
No.
It's about navigating a complex and unpredictable global landscape.
Absolutely. But despite these challenges, there's a sense of optimism and determination in India that's truly infectious. They're not afraid to take risks, to experiment, to push the boundaries of what's possible.
It's like they have this entrepreneurial spirit woven into their DNA.
And that's what makes this story so compelling. It's a story of a nation on the rise, driven by a generation of young people who believe that they can change the world.
They just might.
Yeah.
But let's not forget the human impact of all this.
Yeah.
How is this startup surge changing the lives of everyday Indians?
That's a great question. It's creating a whole new class of entrepreneurs and tech professionals,
Okay.
many of whom come from backgrounds that traditionally wouldn't have had these opportunities.
So it's not just about economic growth.
No.
It's about social mobility and empowerment.
Exactly. And it's creating a ripple effect, generating demand for all sorts of skills and services.
Right.
It's like a rising tide that lifts all boats.
What about the impact on education?
Yeah.
Is this changing how Indians think about learning?
The demand for tech talent is driving massive investment in education and training programs, which benefits not just the tech sector, but the entire workforce.
Like a virtuous cycle.
Yeah.
A thriving startup ecosystem drives demand for skilled workers.
Right.
Which leads to more investment in education, which fuels further growth.
Precisely. And this new generation of entrepreneurs isn't just bringing technical skills.
No.
They're bringing a fresh perspective, a new way of thinking about problems and solutions.
So it's like injecting a dose of creativity and innovation into the entire economy. Pretty amazing, right?
It is, but it's important to remember this is still an evolving story.
Right.
There are challenges to overcome, risks to be managed.
So it's not a guaranteed success story. There's still work to be done.
But the potential is undeniable, and that's what makes it so exciting to watch. This is about much more than just building companies. It's about building a future.
And speaking of the future, there's another layer to this that we need to explore.
Okay.
It's about the role India could play in shaping the future of global technology.
That's right. India has the potential to be a major player on the global tech stage.
Okay.
They have the scale, the diversity, and the talent to truly make a difference.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Break it down for us. Why should we be paying attention to India on a global level?
Well, first off, they have a massive market
Okay.
with over 1.4 billion people.
Right.
India is a huge opportunity for any tech company.
So if you can crack the Indian market,
Yeah.
you've essentially got a global platform.
And the diversity of the Indian market is another huge advantage.
Okay.
With so many different languages, cultures, and socioeconomic backgrounds,
Right.
India is like a testing ground for any product or service that aims to reach a global audience.
It's like a microcosm of the world all in one place.
And then there's the talent pool, as we've discussed.
Right.
India has a young and rapidly growing population with a strong aptitude for technology.
So they have the brains, the scale, and the diversity. What's stopping them from becoming a global tech powerhouse?
Well, as we've discussed, there are still some challenges to overcome.
Yeah.
But the potential is undeniable, and I think we're already starting to see signs of India's growing influence on the global tech scene.
Can you give us an example?
Look at the rise of Indian tech companies like Infosys Wipro and Tata Consultancy Services.
Okay.
These companies are now global giants competing with the likes of IBM and Accenture.
So it's not just about startups, it's about established tech companies making their mark on the world.
Exactly. And then there's the growing presence of Indian tech talent in Silicon Valley and other global tech hubs.
Okay.
Indian engineers and entrepreneurs are playing a key role in shaping the future of technology, both in India and around the world.
It's like a reverse brain drain.
Yeah.
Indian talent goes global, gains experience, and brings that knowledge back home to fuel India's tech growth.
Precisely, and this trend will likely accelerate as India's tech ecosystem matures and gains global recognition.
Right.
We'll see more and more Indian companies and talent making their mark on the world stage.
So it's not just about India becoming a tech powerhouse.
Right.
It's about India shaping the future of global technology.
Exactly. It's a story worth paying attention to.
It feels like there's so much more to explore.
Yeah.
It's a vast and complex ecosystem that's constantly evolving.
It certainly is, and that's what makes it so fascinating.
But before we wrap up this part, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what this all means for the future, for India, for technology, for the world.
I think India's startup surge signals a broader shift in the global economy.
Okay.
We're moving away from a world where innovation was concentrated in a few developed countries and towards a more decentralized world.
So it's like the playing field is leveling
Yeah.
and new players are emerging.
Exactly. And India is positioned to be a major player in this new world. They have the talent, the ambition, the resources to become a global leader in tech.
But it won't be easy, right?
No.
What are the internal challenges they need to overcome?
I think the biggest challenge for India is internal.
Yeah.
Overcoming the legacy of bureaucracy, corruption, and inequality.
So it's about creating a more equitable society.
Yeah.
Where everyone has the opportunity to participate in the digital economy.
Exactly. And if they can achieve that, the sky's the limit.
Right.
They could become a model for the rest of the world, a beacon of hope for other developing countries.
Now that's a vision worth striving for. But let's bring it back to our listener for a moment.
Okay.
What does India's startup surge mean for you personally?
That's the question, isn't it? How could this impact your life, your career, your future?
Yeah.
Could this be an opportunity to invest in Indian startups, partner with Indian entrepreneurs, learn from their unique approach to innovation?
Or maybe it's a chance to broaden your horizons, to challenge your assumptions about where innovation comes from.
Because in an increasingly interconnected world, what happens in India doesn't stay in India.
Right.
It impacts all of us.
So keep your eye on India. Their story is our story too. And on that note, let's pause for a moment to gather our thoughts. What are your key takeaways so far? What's resonating with you?
For me, it's the sheer scale of what's happening in India right now. It's a massive experiment in innovation and entrepreneurship, and the outcome could have ripple effects around the globe.
It's a story that's still being written, and we're all watching to see how it unfolds.
And in our final segment, we'll delve into some of the most intriguing questions that this startup surge raises.
Right.
Questions about the future of technology, the role of government, and the potential for both progress and disruption.
We're back and ready to unpack this final layer of this complex and fascinating story.
Yeah.
We've talked about the investments, the unicorns, the challenges, but I keep coming back to this one question.
Okay.
What does India's startup surge mean for the world?
It's a great question, and one that goes beyond just economics.
Right.
Think about it this way.
Okay.
India is on a mission to become a global tech powerhouse.
Right.
But they're also facing some of the world's biggest challenges.
Yeah.
Poverty, climate change, healthcare access.
And so it's like they're developing solutions out of necessity.
Yeah.
Innovations born from real-world problems.
Exactly. And those solutions could have ripple effects far beyond India's borders.
Right.
Imagine Indian startups creating breakthroughs in renewable energy that help combat climate change globally, or developing low-cost healthcare technologies that improve lives in developing countries.
It's like they're not just building businesses.
Yeah.
They're building a better future for everyone.
Yeah.
But can they really pull it off?
Right.
What are the potential downsides to this rapid growth?
That's the million-dollar question. Like any rapid transformation, there are risks.
Right.
One concern is the potential for widening inequality.
Okay.
While this startup surge is creating opportunities,
Right.
we need to make sure that those benefits are shared widely and don't just concentrate among a select few.
So it's that classic dilemma.
Yeah.
Economic growth without social equity.
Exactly.
How can India avoid falling into that trap?
It's going to take conscious effort.
Right.
Proactive policies focused on education, job training, and social safety nets.
Yeah.
It's about creating a more inclusive ecosystem where everyone has a chance to succeed, and then there's the environmental impact.
Okay.
Can India really become a tech powerhouse without putting a strain on its natural resources?
That's a big concern, especially with a population of over 1.4 billion people.
Absolutely. Sustainable development has to be a top priority.
Right.
Prioritizing renewable energy, responsible waste management, and green technologies will be crucial.
So it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
Finding a path to economic growth that's both inclusive and sustainable.
Exactly. But India is uniquely positioned to solve this equation.
Well,
They have the intellectual capital, the entrepreneurial spirit, and the cultural values that emphasize community and collaboration.
speaking of cultural values,
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier that India's cultural influence could shape how technology is developed and used in the future.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Think about the concept of jugaad.
Okay.
It's a Hindi word that roughly translates to ingenious improvisation.
Okay.
It's about finding creative solutions with limited resources,
Right.
a mindset that's deeply embedded in Indian culture.
So it's not just about building the fanciest gadgets.
No.
It's about finding practical, affordable solutions that work in the real world.
Exactly, and that kind of thinking could lead to some really interesting innovations, especially in areas like healthcare education and clean energy,
Right.
where affordability and accessibility are key.
I'm starting to see how India's startup surge could have a profound impact on the world,
Yeah.
not just in terms of specific technologies, but also in terms of a different approach to innovation.
It's about thinking differently, challenging assumptions, and finding new ways to leverage technology to solve human problems.
Now, for our listener who's been on this journey with us,
Yeah?
it's time to bring it home. What does India's startup surge mean for you?
Right.
How could this impact your life,
Yeah.
your career, your future?
Could this be an opportunity to invest in Indian startups, to partner with Indian entrepreneurs, to learn from their unique approach to innovation?
Or maybe it's a chance to broaden your horizons, to challenge your assumptions about where the next big ideas will come from.
Because in a world that's increasingly interconnected, what happens in India doesn't stay in India.
Right.
It impacts all of us.
So keep an eye on India. Their story is our story, too.
And remember, the future is not predetermined. It's being shaped right now
Right.
by the choices we make, the actions we take, and the ideas we embrace.
And that's a wrap on today's deep dive into India's startup surge.
Yeah.
We've explored the investments, the innovations, the challenges, and the potential impact on the global stage.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It has, but as always, the conversation doesn't end here.
No, it doesn't.
We encourage you to explore the sources we've shared, to keep learning, to stay curious, and to engage in this unfolding story, because who knows, maybe you'll be part of writing the next chapter.